So the last people with whom we were discussing were the Purva Mimamsakas. Okay. The Purva Mimamsaka, according to them, Veda, the whole Veda, entire Veda, has what? Only one Tatparya. Tatparya means the intention. And that intention is what? To send you to different lokas which are pleasurable through different prayers and rituals. Right? So therefore, this is what Satish was saying. For us, the self means what? Only this individual. Right? And what does this, to this individuality that I feel I am, what is the first portion of the Veda, which is Karma Kanda, what does it add to that individuality? It adds Karana Sharira. Because who I think I am is Thula and Sukshma. There is one more reality added, which is what? Karana Sharira. So that means this life is not the end. Okay? You will go to different places, lokas, and also when we come back here, when you exhaust those karmas which bring you to those lokas, right? And that way the whole what? Cycle will continue. Right? Now, in order to get these lokas, you already have some known means. What are the known means? The known means are not rituals, because unless Veda tells you this is the ritual, this is the fire that you have to use, this is the mantra that you have to chant, you don't know it. Right? These are not known means. What are the known means? Knowledge of excellent. Ethical living. You know that if I live, if I do something good, then what? There will be some result for that. Right? Because I live within cause and effect relationship. So therefore, following dharma, speaking the truth, extending my help to somebody, these are all what? Known, they are all known to me. Right? But what I think, I sometimes don't know what it will get me. So what Vedas say, not only it will result in something which is favorable to you in this life, but also it will ensure what? Some better lokas hereafter. Right? So therefore, according to them, the whole purpose of living is what? Lokas. And extending your time there and having subtler and subtler bodies to enjoy the things which are there. Right? And for them, that is the only thing that Veda is talking about. So it's almost as though the Purva Mimamsaka. Right? So therefore, for them there is no such pursuit as to knowing the nature of Atma. For them, there is no pursuit of what? Knowing my identity with Ishvara. Is just what? Going and enjoying better lokas. So therefore, how do we argue with them? On two counts. First is how will you, if you take that as what Veda, the entire Veda is talking about, how will you account for sentences in the Upanishads which say Atma va are drashtavyaha mantavyaha nididhyasitavyaha. The Upanishads talk about what? Atma is to be seen. Seen means not as an object, seen clearly, not through your vision of limited eye, but as something which is free from all limitation. Right? And then in order to, it's just that, is it enough that Veda just says, oh, you are limitless and therefore you will understand it? Is it enough? No. When the Upanishad has when the teacher employs the methodology, you have to reflect on it. Reflect on what the teacher is saying, and if you have any doubts, then what? Actively remove those doubts. That whole process is called mantavya. And the third thing is nididhyasitavyaha. Nididhyasanam. This morning was a beautiful meditation. It was all nididhyasanam. All reflecting upon what we have seen in the classes. Beautiful meditation. Reflecting upon what is Ishvara, how it pervades everything. Reflecting upon nature of Jiva, who we think we are, and then also reflecting slightly towards the end, reflecting upon the relationship of Jiva with Ishvara. That was morning meditation, all reflection, based on Shastra, Nididhyasanam. Nididhyasanam is, after you have understood whatever you understand during the classes, you need to stay with that vision. You can't just say 1 hour of class is enough. It's not enough. Because where you are operating from is what? This little individual and all the worries that that individual is carrying. What Shastra wants to show you? Your limitlessness. Until you see the fact that I am limitless as clear as the daylight, you have to what? Continue to listen to Shastra. So that what you understand and what Shastra wants to convey is what totally aligned. You're not imagining something, you're not subtracting anything. That reality becomes that vision which is now Shastra's vision becomes what? Your vision. And you begin to live that vision. That's why we've written a book, Living the Vision of Oneness. First, you need to understand what oneness means. Secondly, you have to incorporate that vision in your life, in every aspect of your life, in your decision making, in how you deal with situations, how you manage changes, how you relate to people, how you live your life in its totality. Whole thing has to be incorporated. Until that process is over, you have to keep on exposing yourself to Shastra. Can you say 5 years I have listened to Shastra as though if you've done some big achievement? 5 years is nothing. 10 years, nothing. Lifetimes go. Lifetimes go in your buddhi to actually be so sharp and so prepared that you understand what Shastra says in its totality. Some people think, oh, this is just repetition. Yes, it is repetition. Whether you study one Upanishad or the other or Gita, the whole thing it is communicating what? Nature of I. That is the only subject. There is no other subject. Your nature of I, the real nature of I, and equating it to Ishvara. There is no other subject. You can't say, oh, I've seen that in Chandogya Upanishad, so now which other information Mandukya Upanishad will give me? It will give no other information. It will make you see this reality from another standpoint. So that your partial thinking will become what? It will just open and open and open. Our teacher used to say, when you come to Vedanta teaching, you come like a rock. What does the Guru do?
Chisel all the unpaths.
Exactly. Chisel out all the unwanted paths. To emerge what? Then what happens? When you chisel out all the unnecessary paths,
The real way.
you shine. You shine, and what shines is what? A beautiful sculpture. You come as a raw rock, and Shastra and Guru makes you what? That sculpture which has so much beauty. Can you say, oh, I've done it for one day, this chiseling off, so now my job is over? Second day you are choosing off, oh, it's repetition. The cheesing off is so necessary for that whole vision to emerge. And until that vision emerges, it becomes your vision. What other choice do you have but to listen to Shastra? What other choice? Tell me. Because the minute you go back to your world, you go back into what? Your old patterns of thinking, your old patterns of behavior, your own patterns of looking at the world, which are so deeply entrenched, and that will consume you totally. What choice do you have but to come back to Shastra and regain this vision and realign yourself with this? When can you say that, oh, I've done it? What is this? $15, $20, $25 years is nothing. Until your mind becomes refined to, and you become the deserving recipient of this knowledge, you have to continue this process. And ask for grace. Make a prayer every day. Mind is so frivolous, it will get fancied by one thing or the other. Asatoma satkamaya, tamasoma jyotirgamaya, mrityorma amrutam gamaya. Make that prayer as your daily prayer. Tamas is what? Darkness. From darkness of ignorance, which makes my buddhi so confused, to light of knowledge, where there is clarity. Clarity shines through me. From asat to sat. From darkness to light. And if I'm totally clear about what is what it will take me from mortality to immortality. Why? Because Atma is full. Until that vision of oneness is what? Is something which is so totally integrated, I have to refine my buddhi again and again and again. And every little correction that you make is a step towards that. And every little correction that you make will give you joy and take out your burdens. Our teacher used to say, because you simplify, you untangle. Our teacher used to say, you are going from Rishikesh to Kedarnath, and in those days, there were no cars or helicopters or anything. You just had to walk. When you are thinking from Rishikesh to go to Kedarnath, which is 13,000 feet above the sea level, it seems like what? Difficult task. And there are all these, it's so high up, then anything, landslide can happen, snowfall can happen, anything can happen at any time. So it seems like what?
Impossible.
Exactly. Then he says, but if you sit here and think about the difficulty, you'll never go. What do? You start walking. You start walking, and as you start walking, you start to see beautiful Ganga roaring by you. You have not even reached Kedar. You start seeing beautiful forest. You start seeing all these Himalayan birds. The whole journey is what? Then you start seeing Prayags. Bhagirathi meets with Alaknanda. And that Prayag makes it what? From there is Ganga. Beautiful sights. Are mind-boggling sights. Okay. You've started your journey. Way before you reach Kedar, what happens? All your worries and impossibilities and all starts dropping. And what starts happening? Transformation. Very natural transformation. Very effortless transformation.
Enriching also.
And very enriching. And you begin to drop what? Naturally drop what? All your smallness and worries and anxieties and angularities, the way you look at people and you judge them, everything starts dropping and you become a simple human being who's connected to what? Ishvara. The more you begin to see Ishvara, more what? The blessing that is Ishvara as a potential, you will start collapsing it. Beautiful bhajans yesterday. Sab mein Naam. Sab mein Narayana. From your dissatisfaction, isolation, complaint, lack, inadequacies, sab mein Narayana. This is the transformation that we are talking about. Because it is a reality. It's not a creation, it's not a positive thinking. This is the fact. But because of our ignorance, we don't see it. What are we doing? The Guru is not producing anything new. The Guru is removing your ignorance. So that becomes your vision. It's not just a song, it becomes your vision. You start living your life like that. So therefore, this is what we call the spiritual journey of self-transformation. Every time you drop your confusion, that much cheerfulness you get. That much clarity you get. That much of simplicity you get. That much of dropping takes place. All the things that are unnecessary. Okay, so this is how the whole path is built. And if you really take advantage of the whole path, soon you will reach what? Kedar. What seemed like an impossibility. Because you are enjoying the whole process of dropping confusion. Dropping your false ideas. Dropping all your complexes. Dropping all the burden of emotions that you are carrying because of what? Your own pictures that you have created. You are dropping. And coming more and more in touch with reality. And what is the reality? all that is here is Ishvara. Okay, so therefore you can't nididhyasitavya. So we are asking this Purva Paksha, what are you saying? How will you then, for you, if the only purpose of life is to go to heaven, what are these sentences? How will you account for these sentences which appear in the Upanishads? So the answer is in the fourth sutra. So that is one way we negate them. The second thing that we say is, so you can't just ignore one part of the text and say, oh, that is non-existent. The second thing that we tell them is that, do you agree that Shastra talks about moksha? They say yes. So moksha is what? Freedom from the lack, freedom from inadequacy, limitation, freedom from life of becoming. Becoming. So that is moksha, because life of becoming is inherently what limits you. So therefore, right, that freedom that you are searching, which is what a permanent freedom, can it be achieved by just doing something and going somewhere else in time and space?
Just shifting the domain.
Exactly. Lovely. You're only shifting the domain, you're not really solving the problem.
And you think that you are...
And you think that you are. Lovely. Lovely, Alok. You have to recognize that. It is like going on a vacation. It is pleasurable. It is nice. No doubt. But it doesn't solve the problem. Does going on a vacation solve the problem? No. Going on a long vacation. Okay, 3 days in Ananda Resort. Lovely. I had a great time. Now next year I want to prolong. I want to make those 3 days into 5 days. Or 5 days into 10 days. Does it solve my problem? Prolonging that stay, that which is pleasurable, does it solve the problem? So therefore, the permanent happiness that we are looking for, the process cannot be through what? Actions, which give you what? The actions are limited, they give you limited result. It keeps you within what? Limitations. It cannot solve the problem of what I'm seeking, which is freedom from limitation. So therefore, this heaven going that you are talking about cannot be moksha. It falls within what? Dharma. It falls within dharma because in order to get those places, you have to do what? Good actions. You don't just get them. So therefore, the first portion of the Veda, which is Karma Kanda, falls within what? Dharma. Rituals, prayers, doing good actions, living a life of dharma, which gets you what? Good results. Desirable results. It's all within dharma. Moksha pursuit is a different type of pursuit. Moksha pursuit is not apraptasya prapti, but it is praptasya prapti. Big difference. Heaven, which is not there right now for me, I perform an action and I go there. Moksha is what? What is the vision of Vedanta? You are already free. Limitlessness cannot be produced. Please understand that. A limited person doing something limited cannot get limitless as a result. This has to be very clear. The only way there can be a gain of limitlessness is what? If that limitless is already there.
Concept of limitlessness, can you kind of give us 3 very simple applications in our life? Because it's so abstract and very attractive, but I'm just thinking like...
Yeah, so it means, the limitless means not which is subject to time, which is subject to space. The very definition, what do we mean by limitless, right? And that which is not what? Limited by an object. So that means, if it's not one of the objects, it is not subject to time, it is not subject to space. There is one reality like that. And what is that reality? That reality happens to be I. Not the I that I think I am, which is all connected to the body and mind, which is actually a start of the problem. Because it makes something which is limitless, it makes so limited. And within that basic limitation, what? Then there is a search for freedom. And when that search is just in blindness, some actions that I do are appropriate, some are inappropriate. Those inappropriate actions give me what? Difficulties. Now instead of seeing the purpose of those difficulties to what? Bring me back into alignment, what do? I have emotions of sadness, I'm angry towards people. So that means that one original mix-up leads to what? Subsequent mixes up. There are mix-ups within mix-ups within mix-ups. That makes me sad. Then over a period of time, that sadness becomes what? The orientation with which I live the world. Then I say what? I am depressed. So I keep on loading my I with other and other and other things. So therefore, that mistake that I make about the reality, it costs me a lot because it increases the build-up. So this is where I think if I, at this time, it is appropriate because yesterday Neera asked me, I talked about two mithya. Right? So two mithyas are very important to understand. Mithya, as I told you, the definition of mithya is that which has a dependent reality. Now, that which has a dependent reality, so therefore, now there are two different types of mithya. If I tell you that, as we have seen, this cup is nothing but steel, but this cup, can you say, is an illusion? No, it is there. So this is there, and because it is there, I see it. Right? It's not my creation. It's there, therefore I see it. But in terms of reality, what is it? It depends upon steel, then that steel depends upon atoms, atoms depends upon particles. Right? But this particular cup, which is a mithya, is what we call vyavaharika mithya. Empirically true. It's empirically there, right? This table is there, this cup is there, the chairs are there, bodies are there. These are all there. It's not some imagination of yours. There is another type of mithya, which is what we call pratibhasika mithya. What is pratibhasika mithya? Excellent. Excellent. There is a second type of mithya, which is pratibhasika, which, as Carl says, is my own creation. What is the example? He himself gave an example, and that is, imagine you're walking in the forest in the dark and you see one little long object and you take it as a snake, and imagine if in reality it is rope. Now this snake that you see is mithya. Why does it fall within the definition of mithya? What is the definition of mithya? Dependent reality. Bring back what I am saying and connect. Because the definition of mithya is that which depends upon something else. So therefore, what? This snake that I see depends upon what? It falls within the definition of mithya because it depends upon entirely upon rope for its existence. If there was no rope, I would not see the snake. So it still is within mithya. But is it the same like the cup? No. One thing is, vyavaharika is, it is, therefore I see it. Pratibhasika is what? I see it, therefore it is. I see the snake, therefore for me it is. So therefore, when our mix-up in this world and our loading of I is twofold. One is vyavaharika, the body is what? Empirically true. The mind is empirically true. Senses, empirically true. They are not wrong. It's not some illusion. Right? So this body, mind, sense complex which enjoy vyavaharika reality, vyavaharika satta, she knows. I give it what? I give it what?
Too much importance.
Absolute reality. And by giving it an absolute reality, the awareness based on which, upon which its whole existence comes, is figuring nowhere in my understanding. So the mix-up is what? Vyavaharika, which is empirical, has become Paramarthika, the absolute. By becoming absolute, the thing which is the absolute, which is what? The awareness, is totally eliminated from my understanding. That is one level of mix-up. The second level of mix-up is interesting because if I live my life as this body, mind, sense complex, I feel incomplete. And I cannot stand that incompletion. So I engage in the world to make myself complete. Objects become very important. People become very important for my completion. For me to feel secure, for me to feel happy. Now the way the world is arranged, do you always get the objects that you want? Do you always get the people as you want? Do you always get the people to behave as you want? No. So when it doesn't happen your way, then you, in addition, you pick up another notions about I, which are what? Pratibhasika. I am helpless. I am a victim. I am a failure. This is not empirically true. It is pratibhasika because what? You have created this picture. Because you have created this picture, you think it is. So that means you are actually living with two mix-ups. One is what is empirical is taken as paramarthika. The second is what is pratibhasika, which is your own creation, also you think is the reality. Pratibhasika, which is your own addition onto that empirical reality, also becomes what? The absolute truth for you. So there are degrees of confusion. And as an individual, keeping that confusion, you are trying to solve the problem. And there is no solution. This is why you need Vedanta Shastra to first make you realize what, first what do you have to do? Imagine that there is a rope which you are seeing as snake, and not only you are seeing as snake, but because of that seeing gives you what? Fear, anxiety. What does it first have to do? To take you from snake to the rope. That is the first step. Because if you don't come from snake to rope, you are just living in your own world. After you have come to rope, Vedanta has to take you one step further and make you see what? This rope is nothing but fibers. Those fibers are nothing but atoms. Those atoms are nothing but particles. And those particles are not just random objects floating in the air, just joining together. It is all arranged by intelligence, which is Ishvara. It makes you connected with the presence of that Ishvara which is already there. When you saw snake, what is that? Ishvara. But you can't move from snake to Ishvara, you have to first come to what? Rope. And then, from that Ishvara, where does it take you ultimately? Your self-awareness. Otherwise, if you don't understand this whole methodology, it may seem like a limitlessness is some loose word I'm using and it's like floating in the air. There is this whole methodology of leading, as I told you. Leading you to the truth. It is brilliant methodology. In the process of that leading, what happens? First you get rid of all your personally created world, which gives you sadness, suffering, fears, anxieties, all that you have to get rid of first and begin to see rope as rope and not as a snake. And the second step is, even that individuality which is healthy, endowed with what? Certain amount of objectivity, is then made to see further reality, which is what? The presence of Ishvara. The intelligence which pervades the whole thing that we have been missing. And ultimately, as Surya said, the last little step, which is not a little step, it's a huge step. Your relationship, your ultimate essential relationship with that Ishvara, which is what? Where the equation is. It is this teaching, the more I think about it, the more I talk about it, every time I said, oh, what a gift to humanity. What a gift to humanity. Everything else seems so insignificant. If you understand the enormity of this mission. And when this, as this Amma was saying, there is never a time you feel I've listened to it enough. Where do you see repetition here? Every time you're in awe. Change your vocabulary. Make your mind refined enough to see every time somebody connects you to this reality, there is an awe. It takes you away from your littleness, your own little created world which is nothing but miserable. What repetition are we talking about? As though you are very wise and you are somebody who is just coming and repeating something. You can't but be in awe. It's a wonder. It's a wonder which is beyond any other wonder in this world. Ashcharyavat. Ashcharyavat that this kind of a knowledge can exist. Ashcharyavat that a guru can appear and make you see this reality as a reality, as the reality. And that reality is you, not anything else.
I just recalled you have taught this earlier in class, but my understanding today is totally different. I never even understood it then. So it's totally different.
And it's Ashcharyavat that one student can prepare oneself enough to capture this reality in its totality. Ashcharyavat. The whole thing is Ashcharya. This is Bhagavad Gita. Right? So therefore, this whole thing, we say, this moksha pursuit, Purva Mimamsaka is conveniently ignoring. He said, hey, you can't do this so-called selective
Ignorance of texts.
Exactly. Selective ignorance of text. So therefore, we not defeat, but we say, convince that they are not yet convinced, because in the fourth sutra, Tantu Samanvaya, they come back. They come back again and again and again and again, we will see it. But at least for now, they are keeping quiet. So we can move to third sutra. All the things that which are there, I have covered. So let's move to the third sutra, Shastra Yonitva.
Which page?
Page 16, the last paragraph. Shastra Yonitvat is a beautiful, another thing which is just brilliant, right? Somebody is listening to Veda and with a wonder, and this is the first question. Who's the author of the Veda? Wonderful. Utah has the answer. And it's a correct answer. Who is the author of Veda? What is the century in which it came? This is what? This is all these date orientation. And all these scholars, what they talk about this much BC and that much BC, and then they give chronology to this whole Veda, and said first came Karmakanda, and later on people kind of refined it, and then it came what? Then later on Upanishads were added. This is all, this is not how the tradition looks upon Vedas at all. That's why we don't engage in these kind of arguments, with these kind of discussions.
If we put it this way, when we buy a piece of equipment, we make who made the equipment, make a little book with it, a manual, and we put it with the equipment when we buy the equipment. Put it in simple words that when...
Let's look into Shastra Yonitvat. Let's not oversimplify what Vedanta says. What it says is brilliant. Let's look into it. Who is? We trace it back to when? We trace it back to Rishis. We trace it back to Rishis. Right? So each Veda and all the mantras are traced back to all these. How many Rishis are there? We talk about 7 main Rishis, but then there are many Rishis. Right? So therefore, each Rishi, what we saw is, what? Saw certain mantras. Mantras means this mantras. And the meaning of those mantras. And then the meaning of that mantra was transferred to another person. So what is the source? Did the Rishi created those mantras and the meaning? It was already there. So that means this whole creation which has come from Ishvara, and Vedanta Shastra which holds the key to this whole creation is also from whom? Ishvara alone. Shastrasyapi yonihi. The Shastra which enables you to see that Ishvara. Who is the ultimate author of that? Ishvara alone. Ishvara through Shastra and Guru makes you see what? And tells you, hey, you and me are essentially one. Ishvara. Through Shastra and through Guru. So that means the ultimate author of the Veda is what? Ishvara. Rishis are who? Not authors, they are what? Recipient. Exactly. Recipient of this knowledge, and then through them it got transferred. That's why if you study Vedanta Shastra, there are mantras. Sada Shiva Samarambham, Shankaracharya Madhyamam, Asmadacharya Paryantam, Vande Guru Paramparam. What is the first source? Ishvara. It got transferred to Rishis. Rishis, then another person, then another person. Then came Adi Shankaracharya. Adi Shankaracharya, according to Namita, is a cool dude. Cool dude because he was outstanding in this 32 years of his life, the kind of materials that he has produced. 11 words of Brahma Sutra. How many days have we spent? We have not even come to all 11 days. And we have not even come to all 11 words. We have spent days and days and days looking into what? 5-6 words we have studied so far. Atha, Ataha, Brahma Jignasa, Janmadi, Asya, Yataha. 6 words we have studied. And so much material. Where did he get that material from? Like Surya was asking, what is the source? Not my mind. I'm humble. The source is Adi Shankaracharya. His extensive commentaries. Looking into the realities. So I was showing Namita this book that we had studied. And all these Sanskrit commentaries of Adi Shankaracharya, which becomes, and they have all studied that, and that becomes the basis of what I am talking about. I am not just talking from my mind, whatever comes to my mind. This is the whole integrity. Satyam vada, Rutam vada. Say what you think, but ensure what you think is right.
Can you share something in the world of music which is very similar?
Yes, please.
So, nothing in Indian classical music is ever notated. And it's such a powerful tradition and it's never ever been written down. And I think the reason for that is because no one really owns it. So unlike, it can never be a Beethoven or a Bach who's composed something and then there's a sense of ownership over that composition. This is something that is constantly being transmitted just like this orally, and then each rishi or musician will add their interpretation, their love, their talent, and then it just passes on for centuries and centuries. No one knows where it came from actually. Some say Samved, something. So it's a similar kind of thing.
Brilliant. Everything is ultimately attributed to Ishvara. The harmony, the sounds, when you combine them, the melody it creates. All is given as a possibility. And a human mind, what does it do? That potential, it collapses into reality. Using what? First, one's knowledge of how it works. Secondly, one's creativity. Endless creativity. How you can render one raga. Endless creativity. How you deliver this teaching. During time of Adi Shankaracharya, there was no quantum physics, there was no neurosciences, there was no modern psychology. But who were there? Kshanika Vijnanavadi, Shunyavadi, Sankhya, Yoga, all the people with whom he engaged in the debate. The subject matter remains exactly the same. Once you get the grasp of the subject matter, as the time goes, new things arise. The teacher, without sacrificing the original vision, uses one's creativity to take in what the contemporary concepts and makes you see this vision. Because this vision remains always uncontradicted. Shastrasyapi yonihi. Ultimately, not only what it says, oh, then are you saying that Vedanta is a revealed word and Veda alone is a revealed? As Namita says, even music is the same. Nobody has any ownership. Now, let's move back to our normal world. Physics. Did Newton create laws of gravity? The laws of gravity were always there. Millions of apples had already fallen with these laws of gravity. Okay. What is that arrangement which made that law of gravity? That intelligence. Sarvajnaha Sarvashaktiman. In that creation when it came along with laws of gravity. A human being, after years, centuries, discovered the laws of gravity. What did we do? We only shedded our ignorance about what is. Where is the ownership of this knowledge? There is only one source of knowledge, and that is Ishvara. No matter which discipline you look at to. For a long time, there was no subject matter called quantum physics. Only recently we began to realize what? Things are just nothing but atoms and particles. But way before we realized, this object that you saw was organized through what? Atoms and particles. So we keep on shedding our ignorance, but the knowledge which has created from that what? That ingenious thing where from particles comes what? This tangible object. It is already there within what? Ishvara. Already there. You only remove that ignorance. A friend of mine is studying nutrition. Nutrition is a very involved study. Every plant gives us what B complex, or I don't know, B12, or I don't know, A, or I don't know, whatever, C, or whatever it is, right? Everything is so much in detail analyzed, which plant gives what, and then if you want to live healthily, what all you should eat. Way before human beings discovered, the plant already gave all of that. It knew exactly what human body needs, and it was produced in the plant kingdom. We have given names, but we have not created anything. It already came like that. Right? So therefore, that what is the real source of knowledge? When we discover, oh, this is B12 which is going to do this to my bone, we are only what? Seeing the existing connections which we were not aware of earlier. So therefore, not only Veda, please understand, source of any knowledge in any discipline is Ishvara. Shastrasyapi yonitva. That Sarvajna Ishvara is not only source of Veda, it is source of any knowledge anywhere. It is the source. Okay? We human beings, we don't create knowledge, we only what? We discover, and but how do we discover? By removing our ignorance. Whole process of discovering is giving up our ignorance and seeing what is. So therefore, our teacher used to say, all these people, the scientists, they were also rishis. Why were they rishis? Because something which was already there, what did they do? They saw, which others did not see earlier. Right? The doctors also, every new discovery, whoever does, which makes that person see something which was not seen before, is a rishi.
It takes away all hubris.
Absolutely. And the knowledge only rests on Sarvajna Ishvara. Every knowledge rests on Ishvara. Now, what is the difference between Vedas and every other knowledge? The entire process of knowing is what? Not creating knowledge, but removing ignorance. Knowledge is already there. Resting on what? Sarvajna Ishvara. What is the difference between removing knowledge about other things and knowledge, removing knowledge of I through the Veda? Every other knowledge can be removed through what? Which, when it refers to knowledge of an object, it can be removed through what? Excellent. With perception and inference. You can use your perception and inference to remove that knowledge, remove that ignorance and gain the knowledge. But for removing the ignorance about nature of I, Your perception and inference don't work because they give you knowledge of objects and not about the subject. So for removing this ignorance, which is a very special type of ignorance, which is about the nature of I and Ishvara, you are given what? Vedas. Vedas, how do they communicate the true nature of I and true nature of Ishvara? The only access, they can't show you. Why? Because it's not an object. The only access is what? Through words. The only access you have is through words. I can use the words to make you see something which is already there. If it was not already there, you'll never see it. Please understand, if I'm just talking about Gagabuga, and if there is no Gagabuga, no matter 10 days I spend talking about Gagabuga, will you get it? I can fool you by making you believe Gagabuga is something very interesting. But you'll never get it. But if there is a presence, which is the invariable presence, which you constantly miss out, and if Vedanta points to that invariable presence, and makes you see how it is already free, using the words through that leading methodology, you will get it. Provided your mind, which receives this information, is ready for it. Right? So that means what? Not only you have to, what? The whole engagement is what? Seeing what Vedanta says about that invariable presence again and again till I see it exactly as Vedas are wanting me to see it. And what is the second attempt? To prepare my mind more and more so that I can see this reality. That becomes life pursuit. Shifting. Exactly. How beautiful life becomes. What a beautiful program of life. Self-discovery and self-growth. Two agendas. Self-discovery. And that discovery is what? One's limitlessness. Self-growth. Prepare my mind so that I can really discover my true nature. Right? And that in that whole thing, Vedas play what? A big role. Why? Because Vedas convey to me what my true nature is. And also tell me how I can prepare. It gives me different frameworks. Bhagavad Gita and Upanishads. Satyam Vada, Ritam Vada. All the values that we saw in evening classes. These are all what? Preparations to see that reality. It doesn't just leave me alone and say you somehow prepare yourself, then you will see this reality. Included in this methodology of teaching is what? Also certain frameworks for self-growth. That's why it's a complete program, lacking nothing. Everything else seems what?
Trivial.
Trivial. What seemed like something big is trivial. This particular process of knowing is what? Now, anybody can ask this question that how you are saying that the Shastras convey to you this reality about yourself, which is without any limitation, through words. Are words for things which are limited or limitless? Limited. How can limited words convey limitlessness? That is the topic of next class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.